Looking to improve your squad on Ultimate Team? Visit IGGM.com for safe and reliable coins with the link in the description. Use my promo code NA to get 5% off. What's up, guys? For this video, we're going to be doing a tactic that I don't think I've done so far for this FIFA. I might have done one video about this at the very beginning, but for the most part, this is a tactic and a formation that I have not went over, and I haven't even used that much since, the first couple of weeks, and that is the 4-2-2. And if you were around for my channel last year or in FIFA 24, the 4-2-2 was without a doubt one of the best formations in the game. Really good formation all around. And I believe the videos that I would release about them were they had the best tactics that I've dropped, at least for last year. Now this year comes along, and then you have this new strict formation system, I guess you could call it, where you can't play players out of position. People don't have cams like that for a while now, and formations like that, or the 4-2-3-1, things like that, they become hard to use because you need wingers instead of cams. And I've always had that at the back of my mind when it came to this formation, because even though that's still an issue, this formation to begin with and the 4-2-3-1, they're still good formations. It's just a matter of actually getting the players for them. And as we get close to end game, foot birthdays around the corner. Before you know it, it's going to be team league season. We're going to be getting a lot of boosted cards if we don't have them already, for example. And that's a perfect opportunity to start going to these type of formations with these cams in them instead of wingers. So I figured we start today. Now, with that being said, this is the team that I have. Normally, having the squad is very self-explanatory. Everyone knows what good players look like. You don't need certain players for most formations. However, this is a really different formation. There's no wingers, like I said, which is obvious, of course, but it's important that we point out that first things first, you're obviously going to need both your cams. However, with both cams, it's really important that you have good passing with them. And what I mean, ideally, if you can get that incisive plus right here, that thing is a game changer. If I could have it on every single one of my players, I would, if it was sustainable, but obviously it's not. So having it at least on your cams is going to make a world of a difference. Now, for example, Zidane right here, I only have him on white. I haven't even finished this Evo, still haven't. It's taken me a while, but yeah, I only have it on white. I make do with it. White is still decent. However, if you have that plus, you will feel it in game. It's probably the best, at least for attacking players, it's the best playstyle plus in the game right now. I know, for example, last year it may have been, maybe finesse plus or quick step plus. Right now, it's all about incisive plus, especially on those cams, because it's a huge game changer. And then, as you can see right here, I have two CDMs. They both have incisive plus on them. That's like what I said earlier. I try to get incisive as often as I can on my players, or incisive plus at least. Try to get it as far as I can. But yeah, that's that. As for the tactic, this is where things get a little bit more confusing. So it's important that you listen closely here, because for this tactic, there's two codes that we're going to go over. And first things first, before we actually discuss the custom tactic, it's really important to note that I did not create this custom tactic. Specifically, these were made from a member of our Discord server. They are posted in our tactics showcase, which anyone can post to. And if you're interested in, posting your own custom tactics, or if you're trying to see other members of the community and their custom tactics as well, you can do so with the link in the comment section or the description. But yeah, like I said, I'm just reviewing these custom tactics, and I found them to be really good, to be honest. But like I said earlier, there's two codes that we're gonna be going over, and this is the second version, which is the version I preferred, because they created two custom tactics, or there's two versions of this custom tactic, and this is the second version that I preferred more. But I'm gonna go over the first version in case you guys play with this one, and maybe you have a reason to prefer the other one. But for the time being, here's the one that I preferred instead. And obviously, as you can see, we have build up style, counter, defense approach high on 77. Now, like I said, I didn't create this custom tactic. However, I'm going to, since I went a whole weekend league with this, I'm going to explain what I understood from this custom tactic, of course. And with that being said, obviously we understand what build up style counter does. And for a simple explanation, it prioritizes having players making runs in behind rather than having them come short for the ball. It sends players higher up the pitch than they normally do. And then with defense approach 77, it's a bit of almost like a random number even, but it's still going to be really effective because it's a high press to begin with, high line. This is still pretty safe for what it's worth, because nowadays the meta is players using aggressive. They'll go up to 95. I've seen people use 96, 91. I've suggested 91 in previous videos if I'm not mistaken. I like 91 for example, but for this custom tactic we're doing 77, which is pretty safe for what it's worth. And we do also have to be careful because, since as you can see in the player roles, you're going to have a wingback on support. You can't really be too cocky with how you defend. So it's important that you use, something that's not too crazy in terms of defensive approach. And with that being said, player roles, as you can see, you got your advanced forward up front, and now this is probably something you haven't seen in a moment, but you have a second striker that is going to be on poacher. Now, I don't know if it's just because this game is weird, but from my own gameplay, I was finding that ironically my poacher was a player that was setting up my advanced forward, when it's logically speaking it should be the other way around, which is weird because you would think that the purpose of the poacher is to be the classic number 9 up front, the one that scores the goals, and then the advanced forward is a more dynamic attacker that might come short for the ball, turns around, feeds the poacher. In game it was like the complete opposite. I don't know if the AI is glitched in terms of the poacher role. I don't know if it's because I don't have ++ on Liao here, but that's the overall intention. One player is supposed to help and come short for the ball, and the other player is supposed to be specifically focused on through balls. So as you can see, Liao here, probably the fastest card I've had to use this FIFA. Rapid plus with white quick step, max pace, and he has a really good body type, so whenever there's defenders on him, they bounce right off of him. He's tall, he's strong, he's just really, really fast. And when he has those through balls, especially when you're feeding him with incisive passes, there's rarely a situation where the center back is faster than him, to be honest. And now that's when he's, actually making runs in behind, because sometimes he isn't. It's Ronaldo making the runs in behind. I guess the AI is just weird like that. But the objective is still complete for one player to help and the other player to make the run in behind. And with that being said, that's a similar concept with these two cams right here. You have one on playmaker, one on shadow striker. Now, these players do not make runs in behind the way you might think they would, which is different than last year, because for example in the 4-2-2 last year, even your wide cams, they would still make runs in behind, but these players, they don't. However, with your shadow striker, it's a little bit different because they will make runs if there's a really big hole, but for the most part, let's say there's a left back in their position, they're really only going to wait for example, your poacher to move out of position or something like that. Because as you can see in the description, there's emphasis on holes in behind the strikers, so they're only attacking gaps. For the most part, they're almost going to be like roaming around a little bit. So you're going to have to provide a lot of movement yourself when it comes to your attack for this player to put themselves in a significant goal scoring position. But that's what you should be doing for any custom tactic, or just with your gameplay in general. If you're not moving around, then what are you really doing? What are you accomplishing? But you already have your two strikers up front for the main goal threat, so it's not going to be like you really depend on this player for the most part. So you can almost consider him like an extra attacker, if that makes sense. Which brings us to our playmaker balance, which, like I said, really important. They have incisive pass here, also on the other cam as well, but especially on this play right here. Let's say you only have one cam that has incisive pass plus. Prioritize putting them on this side, because when you're building up and you get the ball to this play right here, boom, you can just through ball it to your strikers. And since they're in a wider angle, sometimes you'll be able to turn around and you can spray that through ball in between the other team's fullback and center back. So you have an angle that might be easier to pull off a pass. You're probably used to playing the pass down the middle, which can be pretty difficult sometimes because you got to get past the CDMs and things like that. From a position right here, you'll have a better chance basically. And you have your two CDMs right there, but before we go and talk about them, I want to specify the wingback support right here. And the best thing about this part is, guys, if you've seen my previous videos, I love wingback support. It's just I try not using it because it can be risky, especially post patch lately, where this is a couple patches ago I think, but this is when when the gameplay got changed. I think it was like around Team of the Year. Any defensive player that stepped up, like wingback, false back, all those type of things, they got, like, I wouldn't say nerfed, but there was a risk in using them. There always was a risk, but when that patch arrived, that player would leave so much space in behind. So it was just to the point where it's like, you know what, just use fullback defend. But with wingback support, especially since you have two CDMs anyway, so you're going to be covered regardless. Wingback support is just a really good role because they step up, and sometimes they overlap and they go down the touchline, or sometimes they come down the middle whenever there's space. And since you have two CDMs anyways, that space behind the striker is sometimes empty. Not always empty, because you're going to have your two cams that roam around a little bit, but empty enough where sometimes they're going to step up and go into that space. Now, wingback support is probably the safest defensive role in terms of preventing pockets of space in your defensive line being created, because they don't overlap aggressively. Most of the wingback support is AI based, and what I mean by that is they only act on opportunity, if that makes sense. So they're only going to run into active space that is available for them to make a game-changing move. They're not just going to be cluelessly bombing up the pitch over and over and over again. So sometimes you might notice this player's just staying back completely. Sometimes they might join the CDMs. You know, it's completely AI based, which is pretty good because, you know, you don't want them to be on attacking fullback or wingback and all they do is just up every single attack, you know, because that's just really inefficient. Wingback support, really efficient, really risk averse. And one thing to note with wingback support is the fact that when they do decide to bomb up the touchline, which for the most part you can trigger yourself, especially if you're in a counterattacking situation, you're going to be in a situation where you can get a really good passing triangle between the wingback support, the advanced forward attack, and the playmaker balance right here. And what I mean is you can, you know, put yourself in that cutback situation. Obviously you have two strikers in the box waiting for a cutback. You're going to have a shadow striker almost at the far post type of the cutback or far post angle of the cutback or for the cutback. And then you have your playmaker coming short. I've scored a ton of goals just from that cutback angle from the left. Sometimes it's even better because the wingback support might make a run in behind, but it'll be inside instead of an overlapping run. It'll be an underlapping run. So you'll still have the playmaker balance on the right of this player. You'll see in game. It's just really good, to be honest. I've scored a lot of cutbacks. But yeah, that's that. That brings us down to, I'll mention the CDMs in a moment, but I wanted to specify this player as well. Fullback defend. As you can see when I do this, since you have that wingback support stepping up, when this player does step up, the right back tucks in. They're going to tuck in most of the time regardless, but you're going to see a significant, you know, presence of a back three once this player decides to step up, the left back. But yeah, that's just how, you know, fullback defender works when you have an attacking or a stepping up, a defender that steps up. That brings us down to our two midfielders. And, you know, if you've used two CDMs and have one on, you know, deep line playmaker defend and the other on deep line playmaker build up, you'll notice that, as you can see with the whiff ball structure right here, one's quite literally on top of the other. That looks weird, but it's actually what we're trying to achieve. Reason being because deep line playmaker right here is basically going to be like a holding CDM. The one thing I don't personally like about holding CDMs though, or just holding players to begin with, is that they stay back so far to the point where they cannot contribute at all in attack. And what I mean by that is I'm not asking for them to, you know, score goals or bomb into the box or anything, but I want them high enough to the point where if I'm passing around in the box or something like that, I have an option to pass back to default for. And sometimes with holding, an issue with that is they step back so far behind that the other team's cam is cutting them off. So if I'm trying to pass to that holding CDM, I can't pass to them because the cam's in front of them. And with deep line playmaker, they tend to step up more to the point where they're not stepping up too high, but they're stepping up high enough to at least involve themselves as an option to pass to in terms of recycling the ball. And with deep line playmaker build up right here, that's the same concept. However, this player right here, as you can see if I look at the map right here, now ignore the bright green right there. Not necessarily ignore it, but don't take it too serious because this is more of a free roam play right here. What I mean by that is they're going to be all over the, you know, this space in the front between these four attackers. They're going to be in the middle of them. Sometimes they're going to make a run in behind, not an aggressive run, but if there's an opportunity for them, they're going to make a run, especially since they have a playmaker here. So you're going to be put in situations sometimes where the CDM right here steps up higher than this playmaker. That's just how playmaker is, to be honest. They're not too aggressive of a player, but yeah, that's why it's important to have a CDM that has good attacking stats, and then the other one can just be like a straight defender. But yeah, that's that. Obviously your two center backs, defender defend and goalkeeper defend. And this is the first this is the second iteration. Obviously this is the version that I liked. However, if you wanted to see the original version, maybe for that one, I'll go over what you might like instead of this one, or instead of from using this one, which is obviously this version right here. I probably have to fix a couple rules, but I know I'm too lazy. You'll see short passing instead of counter this time around, and the difference in game that you'll notice is the fact that the two playmakers right here, they're going to be really good passing options to the point where if you can get Tiki Taka Plus or Tiki Taka White on these players, you'll be in a situation where, you know, you'll have these two players, your two CDMs right here, they'll have the ball, or your two fullbacks right here, they'll have the ball. You can pass it out to these players because playmakers do a really good job of always being open. They do their best to, when you have the ball, they try their best, especially when they're in the wider position right here. They do a really good job of always being open for a passing lane. You just pass to them, instant first time pass to your strikers right here, or even a through ball pass. I found that to be a really reliable method of scoring. However, personally, like I said, I like the second iteration more. I've explained why. I don't want to, repeat myself. So I would say this version right here is a safer option because obviously you have those 2 CDMs that are on holding this time around. If you need to hold a lead, I would recommend trying this version out. But regardless, I would say if you're going to use in this formation, use both, because although me personally, I preferred the second version, most members from my Discord, they preferred this version. So yeah, give it a try. Having said that, if you guys are new to the channel, this is something that I do. We create a lot of meta custom tactics this year. So if you want to stay up to date on that, then go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to be a part of these custom tactics in terms of creation or review or things like that outside of these YouTube videos, then you can join with the link in the description. I'll have the link in the comment section as well. I'll also have the 2 codes. But other than that, there's nothing else to go over. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. Other than that, like, subscribe. That's all.